Eddie, you've had strong opinions on this in the past, and I wonder, have they changed in any way? But much of the talk this week, which is actually kind of strange because it's leading into a Champions Cup final, is the future of Joey Carbery and as to whether he should move north, south, or stay put. What are your thoughts on it at this juncture?
Haven't changed really. I said last November, because he played so well against Fiji, everyone said, no, he's the second best out half in Ireland after Johnny Sexton. And I said, well, if that's the case, he can't stay in Leinster. So there was a bit of uproar over that, which you'd understand because Leinster people see him as a Leinster player and he's so important to Leinster. He plays at full back. And look, it's pretty simple as far as I can tell. It depends on what he wants to do. And it's very simple after that. Does he want to play for Leinster? If that's what he wants to do, he should stay in Leinster. If he wants to play for Ireland, staying in Leinster is a problem. And Joe Schmidt has told him that, pretty much. That he can't sit behind Johnny Sexton and be the number 2 Irish out half. So he has to leave. And people are talking about Ulster. Forget about the Ulster thing. That doesn't matter. If the question is, are you going to stay, you're going to go. I think if he wants to stay and play in Leinster, he should stay in Leinster and play in Leinster. But that will restrict his ambitions with the Irish team, I think. And the coach has pretty much laid that out to him. And we said this, he needs to play week in, week out. And not, kind of playing the odd 4-14 game at 10, which he doesn't often do, with Ross Byrne there. He needs to play in the big games, the Heineken games, where the real pressure's on. So, that's it. Now, if he wants to do that, that's fine. But if he wants to play for Ireland, he has to get out of Leinster to do that. Now, where does he go? That's another discussion. Does he go west, north, south? Certainly doesn't go east. Right, that's out of the country. He stays in the country. So, that's where it's at, really. I don't think it's rocket science. The guy, and I understand why Leinster don't want to lose him. He's a fantastic player, but I understand why he probably doesn't want to move, because he's in a very good environment. He's playing with all his friends. They're enjoying themselves. The buzz in Leinster must be off the charts. They're winning most of their games every week. He's part of a winning culture. And wherever he goes, with all due respect to Ulster, Connacht or Munster, it's not going to be the same. They're all aspirations to go there. So for him, yeah, that's the tough part. But if he wants to put 50 or 70 calves behind his name for Ireland and pop, Lions tour maybe down the track, he's very young. He's got to take a risk and he's got to move out of Leinster. He's not going to get that exposure behind Jonathan Sexton.
Yeah, I guess from his point of view, he's still 22, and at that stage, Johnny Sexton was nowhere near being as advanced as he is with his international career. He's happy in Dublin. He's got his girlfriend here. He's got his family around him. He loves playing for Leinster. So, personally, if I was him, I wouldn't be in a major rush to get out. He is playing for Ireland. He's clearly the second choice out half, no matter what happens.
But that might change, you see. If, in fairness to Joe Schmidt,
who do you think Joe will pick ahead of him?
He may have to make a decision about that. I mean, he made a decision when Ian Bannigan left, that he was out of the loop.
Yeah.
Simon Zebo's gone out of the loop since he said he was going to France. And he may have to make a decision that, look, if I need a strategy for the next World Cup minimum, and Carbery might not be able to fill that strategy if he's not playing every week. And that's the kernel of it.
Yeah, and that's the pressure, I guess. That's tough for Joey Carbery to handle. I guess a big point in this is Ulster winning.
It's not that tough either, let's be honest. We're not sending him to Outer Mongolia. It's 100 miles from Dublin, whichever direction he goes, and he's where he's going to be. He's got a girlfriend in Dublin. Listen, people come 12,000 miles across the world to get a job playing rugby.
Yeah.
So moving 100 miles up the road isn't the end of the world. I know it's, and I do have to cross the Liffey sometimes as well. What?
That's for that. Yeah.
But I just think that's overplayed. He's not leaving the country. He's never going to see his parents again.
Yeah.
We're crying at the airport. It's not going to happen. We have motorways and everything. It's a different environment. It's a different environment. Yeah. It's not the same as Leinster, and I get that. That's important.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do. He's really enjoying himself. He's in a very good space with all those guys. But this is about him wanting to be at the next level up consistently. And at some point here, Jonathan Sexton retires. Is he the next man up? If he makes that case by going off and playing somewhere else, he is the next man up.
Yeah. Yeah, and he could do pretty well out of it as well. I think he's
the
in a good...
stakes are high on this. I think they are high.
He's also in a good bargaining position. I think he can... If he's going to go, he's going to do well out of it, even if it is for a year. He can demand a bit more with his wages, with his salary. That comes into it as well. Maybe sweetening the deal a little bit. So,
and I think that what you just mentioned there is he should go for a year and then assess it.
Yeah.
Give himself a year, and he might like where he is. It might be great. It might work out very well for him.
What's that like from an Ulster point of view, though?
Yeah, is that
that's another discussion. Where do you go? Do you go to
Ulster
now? Do you go to Connacht? Do you go to Munster? I think the thing gets conflated when you start talking about the province you should go to before you decide whether he goes or not. First decision, are you staying or are you going? Decide you're going to go, where do I go?
Well, he expressed his desire not to go, but since then Joe Schmidt has come and meet him in a cafe, and someone snapped a photo of it, and everyone's seen that, and he's given him the opportunity again and said, listen, this is still a really good opportunity, and he's probably going to keep saying that to him until he gets the right answer.
He needs to see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Which is, if you don't go, it's going to be hard to pick you for Ireland.
Yeah, I think that's
the risk he takes. And that's his call. I don't think anyone's going to put him on a bus anywhere to go, so you're gone. But if he doesn't go, there has to be ramifications for that. Yeah. You know, because the coach, and you have to respect the coach's position here. His job is about Ireland. He's got to get the best for Ireland. And, you know, he believes Joey Carbery is the next out half. Not maybe just now behind Sexton, but he might see him as the next out half after Sexton. He's succession planning.
Yeah. Stuart Lancaster said during the week that you have to do what's best for the player and not the parties involved. But like when you say, Eddie, when you were saying, well, he could decide, I just want to play for Leinster and stay at Leinster. But is there not an argument to be made that even if he was to move for a year or 2 years, at some point he could return to Leinster and just be a better overall player? That this is an absolute 100%. No-brainer because he'll be playing. And
that's why I say do a 1 year deal and assess it then. I understand why Lancaster said what he did, but he's looking at it through blue glasses.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, like that's the Leinster view on things. He wants him there. But what's best for Joey Carbery? Is it playing for Leinster? No, I think playing for Ireland and the Lions is better for Joey Carbery. And playing for Leinster mightn't get him there. That's the problem.
Is he, like, we've seen him play 10 intermittently and he hasn't lit the world on fire, but albeit you could put that down to the fact that he hasn't played there consistently. Is there any doubts as to the fact that he can actually become a legitimate kind of elite level 10? Like, are we putting a square peg into a circular hole here by any chance?
I don't think there's major doubt. When Joe Schmidt's a pretty good judge of player and he clearly sees him as the second best already, so I think he has all the skills. He can kick, he can defend, he has got a lot of vision, his passing game is good, but he needs the games.
But he hasn't yet. He can, but he hasn't yet. Coming off the bench for Ireland with 10 minutes to go and things are going pretty well is not a benchmark for, you know, being an out-and-out test player. Like, he has to go and he has to try his trade at a very high level, put himself under pressure, and then he gets a start in a Six Nations game or he gets a start in an autumn international against a tier 1 nation, and then we see. Now, there's no doubt Smith thinks he's on his way. He's definitely got the material, but that's a big difference between potential and actuality, you know. Potential energy, kinetic energy, two different things.
You mentioned him a second ago, Ian Madigan, and without trying to sort of put a dampener on his career, because he's undoubtedly an unbelievable player. I know you're very fond of his ability as a player. But is there an argument to be made then that maybe he is kind of a cautionary tale in this regard, that for too long he waited behind Sexton and never quite became a sort of the international 10, albeit that obviously there are selection issues there as well with Schmidt and a decision made. But maybe he might have actually, like, he possibly had a higher ceiling if he had broken into one of the provinces starting 10 consistently at a younger age. Yeah,
I think there probably are other examples of that. A guy not taking an opportunity to move away and get game time. Probably not on this scale. A guy like Cathal Marshall, for example, who's just been released, he had a chance to go to Connacht, I think, a year or two ago, and probably play a lot of games. He decided to stay in Leinster where he was happy, didn't get a lot of games at all, and is now being released. So there are other tales certainly where players have decided to stay, and it is the culture. Like you say, it's not a big deal, but clearly it is for guys who love playing for Leinster.
Well, I'm not saying it's not a big deal. I'm just saying it's not as important as you think.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, if it stops you from, I'm assuming that Joey Carbery's ambitions are to play as many times as they can for Ireland and potentially play for the Lions. So one thing leads to another. So I know it's a big deal, but him kind of say, I'm staying in Leinster, I'm going to roll the dice here. He is rolling the dice. There is a risk for him. You can't deny that.
Yeah, I think we kind of have to wait in this one. Ulster played their Champions Cup qualifier 18th May, so after that it makes it a lot easier decision if they're in the Champions Cup, certainly. So I think we're going to have to wait until we get that confirmation.
Fair enough.
I predict he'll probably go.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the conversation
certainly looks
continues then. Well, like I was going to ask, you think he's going to go when all is said and done, he goes?
I think he will, yeah. I think he will. He has to. If he wants to play for Ireland, he has to go.
And while you said it didn't necessarily matter right now where he goes, surely if you're looking for sort of optimal return, the decision is obviously important as to where he goes.
That's the next decision. What's the best fit for him? But he's got a decision to go. There's no point in deciding where he goes. He's not going anywhere.
If he decides to go, where is the best place for him? Where's the best landing spot to your mind?
The obvious landing spot at the moment is Ulster, because they don't have an out half. Well, they have a young out half, Johnny McPhillips, but he's very early in his career in terms of his development. So I think realistically for the next season, it'll be incredible pressure on Mike Phillips to carry the team at 10, whereas someone like Carbery could do that job very easily. I think he's got the ability. I have plenty of confidence in him as a player. And if he went for a year and see what it's like, or even 2 years, where's Sexton going to be in 2 years? Who knows? Maybe he might retire. Maybe he want to go. He says he want to go to another World Cup, but that might be out of his control if he gets hurt. And then, come back to Leinster. He's not going to not be a Leinster player because he goes somewhere else. You can always come back to Leinster when time's right. But I think the Ulster one is the obvious one. But then again, Munster, I think their Blendal's injury profile, Keighley has not lit it up this year. It was his best chance to do it. There's a window there for him as well. So I think that they're the two places he can look at. But certainly, if he stays in Leinster, he's taking a massive risk.
Presumably, if Ulster don't have a head coach until January, and I know there's a likelihood that gets sorted out, but if that was to be the case, does that almost rule Ulster out then, because you are sending him up to a fairly unstable environment with only 9 months left to World Cup?
Could be a factor in deciding where he goes. Yeah, you might say it's more stable in Munster. I might go there.
Yeah,
like Roger was on about that.
It does make sense. It seems they're screaming out for 10. Blaendal they're a bit uncertain if he's going to come back.
It's a really bad injury profile, that it's doubtful that he could come back to where he was, and that's a bugbear for Munster. But look, that's the detail of where you go, and I think either of those are definitely options. But and you're right, if Ulster don't have a head coach until January, that's not very enticing. To go into an organisation that doesn't have a head coach.
I have to say I do expect to see him up there next season.
Ulster?
I think he'll be up there.
So the check's written, he'll have to go.
For a year long.
Scotland are just playing hardball because Scotland know Ulster have to get him. So Scotland are saying, no, you can't go, and we get the check. As soon as they get the check, he can go. This is all just semantics. It seems unconscionable that Ulster will start the season without a head coach. They'll have to find a solution, and usually a checkbook gets these things done.
Yeah.